Scala, you were saying he would do impressions of different people. Would you happen to give one?
I can't do that, but Mike was so good at it and would make me laugh, would make me laugh. He was, all you have to do is talk about something. Like he loved MASH, the show.
Radar on them.
He would start doing all of the characters, you know, on the show. And then he'd look at his watch and he'd say, "Well, gotta go." What do you mean? No, I gotta go to work. Time to leave. And he put the coffee down, and he's gone. And he's gone. Good guy.
You know, I asked you when I say a name, what would you want to tell them? And the guy I would ask you about now would be Fred Hill.
Well, there's so much I could say about him. First thing is, thank you. Thank you for giving me an opportunity to learn how to be a coach. Thank you for being my teacher, my mentor, my guy that I could always go to and ask about things. Moose.
That's him.
That's him. And
him.
the word is very catchy. And when I first got hired with coaching and went to my first staff meeting with everybody, you know, being a first-year guy and don't know anything, I keep hearing this name Moose, and I'm looking around like I don't see anybody here whose name is Moose. And then I finally learned that it became a term of endearment, a term of respect, and you could use it on anybody.
Yes, sir.
On anybody. And all the kids at Montclair State do the same thing. Now, I don't know if they're changing that without me there, but you know, that's where it came from, and it stuck. It stuck for many years, and I've got plaques and things that say Moose on it, and the girls always buy me some little trinket or something that has Moose on it.
I'm laughing because on staff with you, the first time I heard it, I said, Moose. Okay. So then that coach, Moose. I said, oh, that's, so now to know that was a term of endearment.
That was my introduction into coaching with Coach Hill, to get to know and learn.
And another era completely. Because I've heard that on old NFL and college footage, Moose, to the players, to the coaches, to anyone that dealt within that small vernacular of the aspect of the
and it doesn't have to be,
it's not malicious.
Moose per se. It could be any term, but it just catches,
and it sticks.
And everybody knows that again, it's a term of respect.
Yes.
And friendship, whatever it might be, and then they start to use it amongst themselves.
Yes. Yes.
And it becomes our thing.
And it does help when you forget a name too.
Yeah. Well, that's a good point. That's a good point, because I've done that a few times.
I would want to ask you also about Sam Mills.
I came, let's see, I was coaching in Pequannock at the time, and Coach Hill got me the job at Pequannock. He said, there's an opportunity here. He said, if I'm offered the job, I'm going to take it. Would you come with me? I said, well, you know, yeah, fine, I'm okay. I'm okay, as long as I get a job out of it, you know, a teaching job out of it. And it went forward. So 1976 was the first year that we coached at Montclair State, and I was still teaching in Pequannock.
Bicentennial year.
I was a part-time football coach. 77 came. Coach Hill said to me, he said, "There's still no openings. I can't get you on staff full time." He said, "But when it happens, you're the first guy." Okay. 1978 comes. The opening was there, and that's when I started. And Sam, 70, 89, 81, 82, 77. Sam was a freshman in 77. In 77, and my first meeting with Sam is I was helping Coach Hill give out the equipment, so he had me in the shoulder pad part, and I was measuring the kids and putting them on. And I knew who Sam was because I saw him when he made his visit, and Sam was at the time about 200 pounds, and I put the shoulder pads on him. And I said, "How'd you like to play guard?" That's what he did. His eyes went up just like yours did. And he paused. And he said, "Coach, I'm a linebacker." And boy, was he right. He certainly was. He certainly was. And Sam was the kind of young man and player that was so respectful, always did what he was supposed to do, always on time. If he ever had an issue, he'd always come up and let somebody know, so that he was doing all the right things the right way.
Okay.
Plus being one hell of a football player, too. And he didn't say a lot. He wasn't a loud, rah-rah guy. But when it came time to having to say something, he said it the right way, and he got everybody together. He said, "All right, let's go now and play." See? And boy, could he play. He was really good.
Speaking of that, I'm going to parallel Hernandez.
Which one? We had 5 of them.
Joe.
Oh, that Joe. Okay. I thought you were going to the Hernandez brothers. You said Fernandez. Okay, Joe. Big Joe?
What type of player was he?
Completely opposite of Sam Mills.
But could play.
Could play like hell. And
but boisterous, emotional.
Loud, aggressive. If Joe was a police officer for many years,
yes.
Worked in the jail for many years. My cousin, my mother's sister's son, was also a police officer.
Okay.
And we were at a wake, I think. And I hadn't seen Carmen for a while, so we're talking. I said, "How you doing with the job?" He's fine. He said, "I think I met somebody who knows you." Really? Yeah, we have a new guy on the staff. His name is Fernandez. I said, "Joe Fernandez?" Yeah, Joe. So now I'm hesitant to say anything more because I wanted to see what he was going to say. He said, "If there's ever something going on, I want Joe right next to me." He said, "Because the reputation is, if he's coming into the cell, he don't have to say a word. Everything's going to stop just like that." I said, "Well, that's the Joe I know." That's the Joe I know. And he has a friend that lives across the street from my house.
Okay.
Whenever he goes over there, everything kind of settles down a little bit. Knock on the door. It's Joe. He comes into my house. "You want a bowl of macaronis?" "Well, Joe, make macaroni. Makes the macaronis, eats. He wants a beer, which I don't have in the house anymore because nobody ever drinks it. So, but he was a tough football player. He was on a team that Union had who won a state championship. 2 kids went to Iowa on scholarships, and there was a 3rd kid I don't remember where he went, but it was another Division I school. And everybody shied away from Joe because he was 6 foot.
Is that around the Tony Stewart time?
Yeah, yeah. And when I watched those guys play, I thought Joe was every bit as good as them, but he wasn't 6'3".
That's important. You can't speak on it there about the physicality statute of going to different colleges on different levels.
I was talking to Joe one time. He was having trouble in a gymnastics class. I said, have you talked to the teacher a little bit? Yeah. He said, but he doesn't like American athletes. And he didn't.
Mm.
He was a gymnastic guy. That's why he was teaching gymnastics. Jermaine Johnson had him too, the same teacher. So they were working that particular day on rings. Now,
rings aren't easy.
The professor's about this big.
100 pounds.
You know, so he gets up on the rings and he shows how the iron cross works. Okay.
That's not fair.
You American football players, and I don't want to do his accent, but you can't do stuff like this. You play American football, and so now he's mad.
Big.
He's mad. Dr. Toth turns I shouldn't have said his name, turns around. Joe gets up on the rings. Now he's 300 pounds. Dr. Toth, you mean like this? And he does the iron cross. Like everybody went, what? Like that? After that, they were good friends. They were good friends. So he was quite an athlete.
Yes.
Quite an athlete. Good player.
I got one for
you. But you want somebody with you?
Who? Oh yes.
Take Joe.
Oh yes.
Take Joe.
Yes. Johnny Walker. My guy.
John came to us on a transfer, Northeastern. I think it was Northeastern. Boy, that's going back. He had freshman eligibility. So in his first year, he was the punt return, kick return guy, and he had very good speed.
We'll say the specialist.
Sophomore year, he's now the tailback. He's a starting tailback, and he rushes for over 1,000 yards.
Was Joe blocking?
Joe was on that team. He decided that he was going to put more weight on. He was about 180 pounds, very quick, shifty, and once he got loose, he could stretch it and outrun guys. Comes back. Now he's a junior. And I said, John, how much do you weigh? He said, about 195. I knew something was up though, because he didn't look as fast as he did the year before. He didn't have that spurt to separate.
Okay.
He still had a good year, still had another 1,000 yards, but he could have ran away from some people and just didn't get it done. And I told him after the season, I said, you need to go back a year ago and be that guy. Because you've got the speed and the agility and the ability to stretch the field and let nobody catch you. That's the John Walker that we need. He did it. He got back down the following year, his senior year. He got down to, I think it was just a little bit over 180. He broke another 1,000 yards, and I still believe he's the school's leading rusher, all-time leading rusher. You know, so
here's another
he's
one.
A good one.
Bobby Vanoy.
Now, there's a guy from Clifford Scott High School who Coach Hill saw and came back to us and said, I found a tailback. And it was Bobby. Bobby couldn't have weighed more than 150 pounds. He said, but can this guy run? Can this guy make you miss? And if he gets out in the open, you don't have a chance to catch him.
Don't have a chance.
See, and he made a run. We were playing, well, it doesn't matter who it was. It was one of the conference teams. And we ran an off-tackle play. We were on a right hash. He broke through. He went across the field. Nobody could touch him. Somebody made him cut back. He went across the field again. Went across the field again and scored a touchdown. So he went back, and he probably, it was probably a 65 or 75-yard run that he ran about 125, 30 yards.
Sounds like
back
a zigzag.
Forth, back and
Zorro.
forth, back and forth. He was something else. And we always were fearful that he would get hurt.
Hit solid.
You know? No, nobody could tackle him. They brought him down, but they didn't tackle him. See? And Bobby, up
That's a skill.
Until Chris DeAndrea broke his season record of 1,500 plus whatever yards. Bobby came down to the field that day, that Tuesday or Wednesday, whatever it was. Oh, Bobby, how you doing? Good to see you. Hug him. What are you doing here? He said, I want to see DeAndrea. I want to congratulate him on breaking my record.
He would be the next person I asked you about.
See, and Chris, a different style type
Great
runner.
Guy. Great guy.
But more like Walker.
Yes.
Than Bobby.
He'd give you a little bit.
He could break away.
He could lower the boom on you.
He could break away, and he could take something, you know. And if he needed the 1 yard gain, he wouldn't mind taking a pop to get the 1 yard, to take the 1 yard. So that we were blessed. We were blessed with quite a few very, very good tailbacks. Now you may not know this name. You may not have even been with us yet. Ron Lewis.
No, sir.
Okay, he's from Asbury. Was from Asbury.
Pretty good program.
He was at a prep school, and a phenomenal athlete. Could run like Bobby, had the power like Walker and DeAndrea.
Really?
And couldn't tackle. He's about 190 pounds, about 5'11", 6 foot. We got him in, and we were desperately in need of a defensive back.
Oh, really?
So we put Ronnie on defense. And when the word got out, nobody threw the ball to him. So we said, okay, on that side. We put him on punt return. We put him on kickoff return. Didn't kick the ball to him. So now I'm saying to the staff, I said, we're losing our best player because nobody else wants to give him a chance to carry the ball. So some genius said, Coach, put him at tailback. Okay. Put him at tailback. He ran like a maniac. Couldn't tackle him, couldn't catch him. He was just outstanding. Outstanding.
Really?
Yeah, Ronnie was pretty good.
Jay Scott.
Jay Scott.
Fullback.
You want to talk about the guy who rolls up his sleeves and says, tell me what I got to do. I just talked to him. I just talked to him maybe 2 weeks ago.
Jake Scott, to me, is a constable gentleman, competitor, but I got a guy to go right with him. And you might be shocked, Tariq Turner.
I liked Tariq.
Just got hurt, but Tariq Turner,
I liked Tariq because
I put them both real close.
He would do whatever you asked him to do, even if he never did it before. He'd just work at it. He'd just work at it. And he's one of those guys who became the best he could become. He was really, really a guy who helped us win.
Carnell Hunt.
Probably,
Is he on the order of Sam Mills?
Not quite.
Okay, that's what I wanted to. I was
Not quite. But
he
he's probably in the, I'll say top 10, maybe even top 5 of the linebackers that we've had.
Really?
Yeah, Cornell was very productive. And me, I wanted to make him a fullback.
Well, most linebackers,
they can be fullback.
Yeah.
But he was very, very productive, and had a knack of making the key play
when you needed
it.
Smart.
Very good point for him, because he was a smart football player.
Todd's father.
Eddie Agresta?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Eddie was a high school coach for many, many years. And then as Todd got older, when Todd was this big, he was running around on the sideline chasing the footballs for us and everything. And then Todd started to coach. I think he started at William Patterson first.
He went to William Patterson.
He went there, and I think that's where he started coaching. And Eddie had moved around a little bit. Eddie was at different schools. And
was he close with Coach Hill? Because those was like your mentors, correct?
Yeah. We knew Eddie for a long time.
He was an author or something, correct?
He was. He got into doing talks, motivational talks to teachers and different groupings, and then he got into magician's work. So he would do something with that while he was giving his lecture, and he had everybody right there with him. But he was a very, very good coach, very smart, and had a different way about him that he could get your attention. Got our attention too as coaches. He was a good guy.
I have to speak of Todd. Todd was tough. Todd Agresta was tough as a defensive coordinator.
The thing that was good about him, is that he knew his stuff. He knew the X's and O's of the defense that we were going to employ. We had always been a 4-3 defense or a 4-4 defense, an even man front. And Todd was studying, he was reading, he had books, he went to clinics, and he liked the 3-3, the 3-3 stack, an odd man front. And he studied it without any interference of, well, I don't know. No. He sold himself into it, and anytime there was something that came up where he would look at a film of a team, he said, you know what, to himself first before he said it to me, I got to change that 3-3 a little bit. When they line up in this formation, I'm going to slide these guys over here so we can cover that. And if they go in motion, we're going to move back the other way. So he had all the answers to things. He had it in his notebook. He had things, and he'd look up things, and then he would explain it to me. And the thing that I always used to ask any coach who wants to change anything.
Tell me why.
You said it. Why do you want to do that? Why do you want to do that? How do we benefit by that? I know you know it, but can you get them to know it?
It goes back to what you speak of with the teaching again, the consistency. And can you explain teaching, not just from the classroom, which we've covered, and on the field, but the parlayness of their understanding and comprehension? That's what I want you to get a little bit more into, in the aspect to the students to understand that it's not always that the coach doesn't like you or something like that there. And this is not just coaching on the field. These are your teachers per se and your parents. They're telling you because they've been there. And you don't need to go over the speed bumps that they've gone over. They're giving you a free drink.
Well, the speed bumps are important, though, to go over.
For those that have learned from them.
And the guys who are trying to learn it.
Okay.
And here's an example. I had a young tackle, offensive tackle, was a freshman. Big kid, about 300 pounds, about 6'3". And in that particular period, I was teaching the skill of cutoff blocks, where if there was a defensive player, and this is for the lineman, I'm a right tackle, let's say, and this defender lined up on my inside shoulder. Now the ball's going that way. So I said, we have to know how to cut this guy off. Okay? Why? Why do we have to know this and learn this? Because the ball's going that way. If the ball were going this way, it's easy. He's already inside you. But it's not. We're going the same way. And instead of having the quarterback look at alignments all the time and check, which we've done, but we also need a way to handle that defense with him on the inside when we are going to run their way, and we're not going to check. So part of what we're talking about is teaching and why we're teaching this technique. So they get a chance to know, oh, when that guy's inside of me and the ball's going over that way, I have to use this technique. See? Okay. So the young man comes up, and I made a mistake in teaching this, in that I should have had a veteran player come up and be the first one in the drill.
Okay.
So everybody could see it, because I've taught it to him already.
Visually.
He knows it. Okay? And the teaching aspect was, you must move your inside foot. First. Okay? Now, I've done it both ways. I've done it with a slide step in or a drop step, but it has to be the inside foot, because
Okay.
you got to get some depth so that we can get our body across his face, because we're going that way and he's there.
Okay.
All right. So move your inside foot first. Take your second step with your outside foot.
That's your plant.
See? Well, you're moving it now. You're going, and I over-exaggerate it because I know we're not going to get a full crossover. So I tell them, cross your foot over. What I really want is to put that second step in the crotch of the defender. So here's their feet. It's 1, 2, and then step outside. So our helmet should be on his outside number. Our helmet should go past his helmet.
Step, break, shield,
See?
basically.
So everybody understand it. Now, why are we using this? When do we use it? When that guy's inside of us and we're going to that side. So part of the teaching process is to explain to them why you have to know how to do this. Okay. First guy up was a freshman. There was my mistake. I should have used a veteran. Freshman came up, put a guy up on him, and I gave him the cadence, set, 2, and he moves his outside foot. He's in a right-handed stance. As you know, our right side guys stay in a right-handed one, our left side guys stay in a left hand. So he's in a right-handed stance. He's got his left foot up, his right foot back. He moves this foot first. Okay. Now, you see what happened? What happened just then? Well, I couldn't get ahead of him.
Could not.
Okay? I couldn't get, well, one, I'm saying to him, good, he finally saw why it's not going to work. Okay, let's try it again. Same thing. Moves that foot. I said, what foot did you move first? Inside. You sure? No, you didn't. You moved the same outside foot. I did? Okay, all right. Third time, one more time. He did it wrong again. Did it wrong again. And before I did the cadence, I said to the guys on the side waiting to go, I said, watch his feet. So he's sure that I'm not just saying something. I'm seeing it, you're seeing it. And he did it wrong again. Did it wrong. Somehow he couldn't process getting his brain to tell his body that it's got to be this foot first. Okay? But why is important? Because you're never going to make that block if you don't do it the right way.
True. Technique is essential.
So this is why when you teach these guys, especially linemen, you got to teach them the skill.
Show them.
Where's your body part going, and why and when do we use it? Because they don't, if they'll do what we tell them, but they don't know when they have to do it.
Or why it's being done.
See, and why is just as important as anything else.
True.
That we're trying to teach them.
How does mental health come into playing? Do you think that people that have slow reaction debilitation, that can help them? I believe it can.
I think if you spend enough time with them, coach them maybe a little slower. You don't have to yell at them because they make a mistake, but
go into a shell.
Try to say to them, look, here's why it didn't work. Now follow me, concentrate with me. Here's what we saw you do. That's not going to work with this type of skill and technique. Mm-hmm. Here's why you need to do it this way. What'd that guy do to you? He crossed my face. I couldn't stop him. Okay, this is why we got to do it. So you may have to spend time with guys like that. And when practice begins, we want everybody out on the field by 2:45. That's called pre-practice.
Okay.
That's a free 15 minutes
for you to practice,
for everybody to work on a particular skill
that they're not up to par.
That I got to work on this. My pass set is no good. I got my head down. I'm using my hand wrong. Okay. And I walk out there, because you know where the linemen always go. They're always on their pad, you know. And I just stand there and I watch.
Who's taking the extra time?
What are you working on? I'm working on my pass set. Okay. Where's the defender lining up on you, so I can watch your footwork? See, and there's nobody on him. He's just doing it on air. See, but that's the time that they can concentrate on
themselves.
Their themselves and the technique of
which they're not
a guy lining up in that position.
And the purpose of it.
And sometimes that doesn't always work in pre-practice, because some of our coaches are teachers.
Okay.
And they don't get here in time
to teach
for that 15-minute period. Charlie used to come. He didn't get out of school until 3 o'clock. He got himself in a jam up there at Cresskill when he left school early to come to practice. Somebody saw him. They brought him in. They did all of that stuff. So I said, Charlie, don't put yourself in that spot. We'll cover. So if the receivers, if you're looking to get those receivers to do a certain route against a certain coverage, you take the quarterbacks and the receivers together in pre.
True.
And run it there. Richie used to take the running backs. If we were going to run a particular play and insert it for the first time, Rich would take the backs and the tight ends, and if he wanted half of the line, because let's say it's going to the right, he'd call for a guard and a tackle.
True.
And then he'd send them down and send 2 more back. So we would cover for the guys who couldn't get there on time. So that's part of the problem with classes, when you don't have the luxury of controlling class times. So we could get those guys here at practice on time.
What's the difference, you maybe can explain to the different young people that aspire to be collegiate athletes on the different levels? What basically is looked upon Division I and II, which have scholarships, and Division III that doesn't? Or does it?
No. But I don't know with this NIL stuff now. I think guys are going to start to say, well, it doesn't matter because I'm going to get money when I go through that process and still be on
is what?
NIL. That's when they put their name in a
hat,
in a pool, and they're guaranteed money. Doesn't matter where they play. But to answer your question, people look down on Division III.
Have there been many success stories from Division III?
There's plenty. The Sam Mills story is the best. But because it's a non-scholarship, kids don't want to go there, or families don't want to go there because we're not giving them money.
Okay.
Okay? The second thought is, if you can't get Division I, II, or prep, you're not a very good player. Go to Division III.
Oh, that's the mindset.
See? And that is, again, wrong.
What is the difference with JUCO that comes into play with that? I'm trying to get you to explain that to those that have been told different things. That's why I asked you that.
The idea of junior college football was to take a good football player, but physically mature him, spend a year at a junior college, then the Division I's will say, well, you remember that kid at so-and-so high school? He was really good, but he was a little bit undersized. He was about 225 pounds. He was playing tackle. He's 6'3". He went to so-and-so junior college. Make sure we look him up the following year or the spring. Well, the 225 is now 245.
Mm-hmm.
See, he put another inch on, so he's 6'4", 245, and still doing the good things that they saw the first time. So now maybe they'll offer him. I forgot what kid it was. We were trying to recruit a kid. He was an undersized center. And Virginia Tech told him that if you go to junior college, we're going to watch your film again at the junior college. We're going to see how you play, if you improve on yourself, and at the same time,
we'll give you a scholarship.
Work on the weights, get a little bigger. Well, it turned out he got to be 6'5", and probably ended up around 270. Scholarship system right there.
Do you believe in the old football farms anymore? Are they still around?
I don't think so.
But they did serve their purpose?
I don't think so. The camps used to be the thing that kids would go to improve their skill level. See, and usually they were underclass kids.
So basically the days of just playing football, not doing your job in school, those are over. I need to hear that.
You can, if the camps themselves have kind of dwindled, they've gotten to be expensive.
Okay.
And now schools take their whole team to a camp, and they try to train them and coach them. But college coaches, if they're doing their homework, they already know
who's on the radar.
Who's on the radar and who the guys they're interested in. See?
There were schools, what I was saying, Coach G, is that at one time there were colleges that they went to that were football camps. They go there for 1 year or 2 year. Maybe not have the best curriculum, but they were able to play, and then they were transferred right into a major university like Cincinnati or something of that nature there. Are those type of football factories, as they used to call them, still around, or those days are over?
No, that still happens. That still happens. But the part that you got to look at is they've got that kid on the radar probably since his sophomore year.
In high school.
In high school, okay, and they watch him. They've got a book. They've got all the sophomores, all the juniors.
Really?
Oh yeah, they've got all that down. You should see. I look at my emails still every day. You see how many sophomores
really
that are on there.
But
Yeah.
but they're already conscious of maybe the lack of discipline, academically, and maybe some other whatever.
Yeah, the coaches of the schools know that,
but they still keep them.
They're still on the books. They still got an idea, because if this guy changes and blossoms,
we have something.
He's interested in us. We know already. We've contacted him, so he knows we're interested a little bit. And if they don't find somebody else,
prime picking.
Maybe go back.
Prime picking. How you had a good ratio of Division III players that have signed a lot of professional contracts at Montclair. How was that for you and your staff? How did it feel?
Honestly, I don't make a big deal out of it. If you're good enough, pat you on the back, congratulate you. Now keep doing the same things that got you this opportunity.
Okay.
See, yeah, it's nice to puff up and brag that, hey, we just signed a guy. The Giants just signed a guy, and this team just signed a guy from Montclair State. Right? You still got to make it. You still got to get it done.
Can you explain that to the audience, that once you can be on a practice squad or have a tryout, but it doesn't mean that you're going to get to the NFL?
Yeah.
Because there are so many misconceptions. So that is true. You can sign for a tryout, but you never are on the roster.
Yeah, and the NFL teams have numbers cut down day. I don't know exactly the number, but if they go into camp with, well, let's say 90 players.
Got to get it down.
Okay.
Is it 62?
A week goes by, maybe the first game goes by, whatever it might be. Maybe that 90 goes to 75.
Now that's if you played or not, and you've been paid.
Well, you're in that camp. You're in that camp. That 75 date comes up, there's a cut list. They drop this guy, this guy, this guy. Okay, 75 might go to 65. So that's the last cut. Whoever makes it, they're on the team.
Okay. Because that's a misconception.
And now you got the waiver, not the waiver, the, what's that term they use to keep those 9 guys there? The taxi squad. We used to call it the taxi squad.
On IR, injured reserve or something like that?
Well, they can put them on injured reserve, but there's a limit to how many guys go there. So you can have, I think it's 8 or 9.
Okay.
I think it's 8 or 9. So if you want to save a guy and not cut him and let somebody else pick him up, you put him on that.
Oh.
You put him on that. See, but it's only 8 or 9. So I think the NFL numbers are mid or high 50s. That's your playing team. That's your playing team.
What's your biggest utopium out of coaching all these years? What's your greatest joy that you got out of coaching all these years that has not perished, is still in you now?
Well, the competition of winning is my joy. You know, everybody wants to win. I know that. But I like to see the success that the kids are having with the program. I'm hoping that we did the right things with them and treated them right and did it the right way. And then, what's their future?
Beyond football.
What's their future? I get a knock on the door. Young man comes in. I haven't seen him. Probably played 10 years ago. Oh, Moose. How you doing? We shake hands. We hug. What are you doing up here? Now, to myself, I'm saying he's probably looking for transcripts because he didn't graduate. We sit. We talk. He said, well, I was in the area. I was doing some business. I just wanted to stop in, say hello, and thank you. Thank me. Coach, Coach, I'm married. I own my home. I have 2 children. My wife's beautiful and lovely. I'm coaching at the local high school. But I can't get these guys to do what, and he fills that in. I said, aha.
So now you see.
So now you see it from
what
this side. He said, Coach, how did you put up with me? He said, I know I wasn't the easiest guy to coach. I said, well, I'm going to be truthful with you. You're right. You weren't one of the easiest guys to coach. But you got to give yourself a little pat on the back.
You made
because all I did was when you fell off the rail, I grabbed you by the pants and put you back on it. You did the work, not me. You did it. And now you're starting to see the fruit of all your work coming out.
From the other way.
From the other side.
Now you see what I was saying.
See? So I'm glad that everything has worked out for you, but now you're teaching those guys.
How is it that when the baton was passed to you, and how did it feel when Coach Hill would come? I seen him on several occasions come to you, and y'all would sit down at the game, and Coach O. How did that feel?
I have mixed feelings on that because there's a right way and a wrong way to do it.
Oh.
If they come up on a Saturday afternoon, they want to sit, they want to watch the game, watch the game
Excuse me? Can you say that again?
They want to come up.
No, I need you to say it not on the interview like Coach G would say it.
Watch the game. Don't critique the game.
Did you get what I just said? You did it. You caught yourself when you said, watch the game. I saw the facials. If you didn't, I saw them. I knew what to look for.
The thing that's hard for me to deal with is that anybody, not just them, you, me, anybody, if we're sitting there and we're watching the game, it's easy to say after the play is over, oh, they should have done this.
Monday morning quarterback.
Absolutely. See, you want to support the football program. You're my friends. You want to come to the game. Watch the game. Don't critique it.
Period, dot. Can I hear you say period, dot?
Period, dot. Exactly. Don't critique it. See, because it's easy to sit there and say shoulda, woulda, coulda.
In the moment.
And that's easy to do when it's already done. And especially guys who have football background, they know what they see. Oh, you should have done.
But not knowing the personnel, not knowing the situation.
Doesn't matter. You should have done this. You know, and they're in that coverage. Don't throw the ball over there, throw it over there. But it's after the fact. See? And that's why we have guys in the press box looking at the same thing, giving me the same information on the headset, and then I share it with Steve and the other guys, the other coaches, to do certain things. Bottom line is, it comes back to the players executing.
Yes. Now, with execution, since we're speaking of that, with execution, what do you have to say about conditioning? The mind, the body, the team, the whole thing.
I tell the guys in the first meeting, I've changed my approach a little bit. I don't run them after practice anymore.
Why? You ran. I ran.
What did it gain? My point is this. If you run to every drill and do everything full speed in the 2 hours that we're on the field, you should be dragging. You don't need to have to run again. You've done it.
Okay.
You've done it. Now, the guys that don't do it are usually the linemen because they don't want to run 75-yarders and 50-yarders and those kind of things. But they'll give their best effort. But look at the wide receivers and the defensive backs.
That's all they do.
They're running all practice.
That's all they do.
They don't need to run. And I can't, in my own good conscience, say, okay, you guys, because you ran all day, you don't have to run. The rest of you do.
Can't do that.
Can't do that. I don't think you can do that. So, at the end of practice, on a day where we don't have pads on, I'll make them run at the end. Mondays and Fridays.
That's
no, not Fridays. Thursdays.
That's understandable.
Thursdays.
I'm going to go back, way back. And they used to, I shouldn't say I was raised in this year in football, and you probably were too, as I spoke of the World War II veterans that coached. They would call it suicides or capital punishment if you did something wrong. What do you have to say about that in today's coaching?
Yeah. Don't do it. I don't do it. I don't do it. You're not teaching them anything. You're teaching them how to be tough, but there's a whole bunch of other things that they have to learn. We would scrimmage each other. We would hit the sled constantly. Constantly. We would run up and down the field for punishment more than conditioning, but conditioning was in it.
Yes.
But I don't know if you have to do the
remedials.
No, that's not the word I'm thinking of. The military type approach to it. Man, we went 1-on-1 and 2-on-1s and 7-on-7.
The ring and all that.
The whole day. All we do is hit. All we did was hit.
I'm going to come to a close on this, Coach. You have to play football with contact collision. We were taught, and I'm behind you, lead with your head, lead with your head. What do you have to say on that there now that it's changed and you got so many shoulders and stuff you messed up?
Most of all the severe injuries are head injuries because the body makeup for the contact sport and the collisions and the speed of the collisions, when the head's down, the body's in trouble. There are some hellacious collisions that you see and guys pop right up because the head's up. You can't let your head go down. That kid that got hurt, DeMar Hamlin, I think his name was?
Hinton or something?
Okay. He tackled the guy around the shoulder pads. His head was up, there was no problem. The ball carrier had his head and face hitting him right on the heart. Right on the heart. And that's what caused the trauma. See?
Changed the rhythm.
Everything was done okay. Everything was done okay. It won't surprise me if for some reason somebody says to the rules people that the shoulder pads need to come down further. There's the incident right there that proves that. Cover the whole chest. My grandddaughters are playing softball. It is mandatory that they must have a chest protector under their jersey. So if that line drive comes and gets you in the chest and you can't get your glow up, you got some protection.
Some type of protection.
Mandatory, the pitcher has to wear a face guard.
Yes, I have seen that, in case the ball comes right back at him.
That's right. Now, I'm not sure about the infielders because I see infielders playing without a face guard. I know the pitcher has to have one. Now, my granddaughter who plays third base, she wears the face protector anyway.
Okay.
So that makes all of us feel good. You know, we're happy that that's happening. Obviously, the catchers have to wear the face mask and all the other stuff. But it wouldn't surprise me that they bring the football equipment down further.
Do you think that football will be around for a while with all of the intangibles that are happening from a trauma perspective, cardiac perspective?
I think if the money stays like it is and increases as the years go by, yes.
The kids are going to get bigger and stronger and faster too.
And, you know, and that's the money in all the sports now are so out out of whack because it's so lucrative.
How much money do you need?
It's not. I don't think it's a question of need. Of course, they want it.
Of course.
You know, they want it. But the bragging rights, you know.
I have more than you.
Yeah, I'm the best on this team, and I'm the best in the league. So give me $3 million, $5 million, $20 million, whatever it is. You know, I can't believe in baseball there have been so many players who've gotten long-term contracts
And didn't finish them.
hardly played at all for 15 years, 20 years. Bobby Bonilla with the Mets, he didn't play one game.
Why would you say the Mets, sir?
Because he was on the Mets and they gave him the money.
Couldn't you have used the Yankees?
I don't have anybody else to say that with. But, you know, yeah, they want the money.
Yeah.
They want the money. And the clubs are willing to give the money for winning championships. But at the same time, you give a guy a 10-year contract and he plays 3 years,
You lost out.
you got 7 years, you still got to pay him. As long as it's a legitimate physical injury playing.
Yes, yes. Well, I'll say this here in closing. You've been very, very instrumental in explaining to our audience, to myself, the passion, the dedication, the unifying, and most definitely the privilege of knowing how to use the best you have to get the most out of what you're trying to achieve. And I thank you for that.
Well, Moose, to say Moose, which means I love you,
I love you more.
and you want to be able to help these kids, these people. I'm not about turning my back on them when they're done playing. When they're done playing.
But that's the characteristic of coaching when you came in. Whereas now, I cannot say, I will not say, that the coaches that coach now don't have the same fervor and dedication. But there is a component there called, I'll say something, I think I know what it is, but for the audience's sake, I'll say something pulls them towards it more than the actual game itself.
Well,
and passion.
they want to help their kids. The kids give so much in terms of their physical attraction to a contact sport, and they're willing to do it. And at the same time, as coaches, we ask them to come to practice every day, work hard every day, put the pads on, go to class, do all the pieces that come together. And what I say to the seniors when I talk to them, if you want me to give you a recommendation, I'm willing to do that because of what you've done for the school and the program. However, I'm going to tell the truth. If you were a guy who was a problem for us, I'll still write the recommendation, but I'm going to tell the truth. If the questionnaire said, did he give you any problems? Did he give the school any problems?
And on that note, we'll end by saying, the truth will set you free. Thank you.
Thank you all.